Hello. Hello, this is the My Artifact episode number 4085. Today's date is 2nd of June 2026. It's been almost like exactly 11:04 p.m. Alright, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. Alright, so question is, what if API fail? Okay, yeah. That is a really good question. Very technical, by the way. Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? I wanted to build an application called My Artifact. What exactly is this application? When you wrote the diary every single day, you cannot able to be write the diary the way that you wanted to. Why? Because your writing speed is much more slower. Why? Because when you write, you need a pen, you need a paper, you need a convenience, and even after that, you need to put so much hard work, you need to put so much effort to write your thoughts. And even after you put all those effort, you cannot able to print your thoughts. So that's why kind of like a very less people are writing a diary. Okay. But what if I'm gonna say instead of writing a diary, what if you could record a diary, like a audio recorder diary? The stuff that you are kind of like listening, this is called my audio diary or my artifact. I called my artifact. Okay. This is my artifact episode number 4085. I'm doing this thing for past 11 years. I'm doing this thing every single day. It's a kind of like a somebody audio diary. Okay. Because of writing a diary is a self-reflection process, recording a diary or recording artifact is also a self-reflection process too. It adds so much amount of value in myself. The person that I became today and the person that I will become tomorrow, it is all because of this artifact. The amount of value that I get from this artifact, I wanted to share this value. I wanted to share this technicality to the people. So how do I supposed to share this? By building an application. My application is somewhat something like a YouTube platform. In a YouTube, you actually kind of like upload your video, other people kind of like assembly watch your video. Same thing, you kind of like record your artifact, other people kind of like listen your artifact. There is a one catch is that key user will not gonna know your name, your identity is always kept hidden. This is a kind of like a thing, yeah. Like basically my name is a Saurabh Authare, but my artifact handle name would be Prozac 1943 or something else, so that my privacy is always kept hidden. Before I wanted to build this application, I wanted to know all possible consequences, specifically worse possible consequences. So I went to ChatGPT and kind of like a basically this thing that key like telling that key like suggest me all the kind of like a possible consequences will gonna happen. ChatGPT kind of like suggest me hundreds of question in possible consequences, and this is one of those question. Now this question says that what if API fail? Now what is actually API? API it's a very technical. Let's just say the API is a kind of like a core functionality. Let me tell you one thing. When you open the Instagram platform, okay, now when you open the Instagram app, you are opening just a user interface of application, right? But there are so many things are actually happen behind that Instagram, like a what kind of like a reel that you are kind of like a seeing, or what kind of like a post that you are might gonna getting, or things and that and that. And this is all decided by the kind of like algorithm, and algorithm is a kind of like a work on API. Okay, what exactly is this thing? I know it's a bit more technical point of perspective. I'm trying to as simple as possible as it can. API is a kind of like a only messenger, okay, yeah, from user to database server. Okay, like a database where all the information are actually stored. All the Instagram reel, photo, everything are actually kind of like a stored in database. Algorithm is kind of like a decided that what kind of like a data that user should supposed to be see regarding about the background history, things and that. Okay, and the API is the kind of like a transmitting that data from data center to algorithm to user. Okay, and this actually happened back and forth, like from data from user it went to kind of like a database to the algorithm. Yeah, like this kind of like a things, like a API is a kind of like a somewhat something messenger. It kind of like a transmit data from data center to algorithm to user to data center to algorithm. This is back and forth every single time it actually happening. Okay, now the question is that what if that messenger is not doing his work, like that API is a fail, means that messenger is not doing actually work. Then what is actually happen? Then the data will not gonna load, the connection will drop out even after the internet connection is actually enabled, but still API fail, the user, and the user is disconnected from the database, from the algorithm. So in that situation, obviously user will kind of like a get panic, like what the fuck is actually happening? My internet is actually working, but why does Instagram is not actually working? So in that situation, things might be very much compromised. Like things would be kind of like a very crazy thing will gonna happen. So in that situation, what do I supposed to do? First of all, my application is not Instagram. My application is an artifact. Okay. So in my application, right now I don't really have any algorithm. I have kind of like a simply data is kind of like a goes through user to database and database to user. At the beginning, I don't really have any algorithm. In the future, I will have an algorithm called Adam. Okay, but basically it's the same thing. Data will kind of like a come from user to database to Adam to user to database, back and forth, back and forth. So if the API is not actually working, then what will gonna happen? Couple of things: new recording or new artifact will not gonna load. Okay, whatever the artifact that you will gonna upload, it will not gonna upload. You cannot change your DP or anything at all. But these are important things. You cannot able to be listen more artifact, or you cannot able to be upload your artifact. Okay, so yeah, it's a very kind of like a very crazy situation. So in that, when such thing actually happened, so what do you supposed to be do? Okay, so I am making sure that this will not gonna happen. Like a basically like a usually people kind of like a mention that na ki app went crash. So this is what it means. Okay, yeah, app went crash. Okay, uh so in that situation, how do I supposed to be kind of like a figure it out? Yeah, I'm making sure that this will not gonna happen, but like basically I don't really see in the future. So there are so many things might gonna happening. Okay, so in that situation, how do I supposed to make sure that ki uh, like if such thing will gonna happen, how do I supposed to be overcome, how do I supposed to be fix, or how do I okay, first of all is that ki usually I kind of like a solving the problem before it even exists. This is the kind of like a my mantra or maybe my motto. Okay, I know I am not perfect. Oh, obviously my application is not that perfect too, but I am kind of like always ready for the disaster, always kind of like making sure that ki my process is kind of like as much as better it possible. Okay, so let's come first. Okay, obviously you will not gonna upload your artifact, that is true. Even after like this problem is only gonna solve by kind of like a enable the API or fixing the API as fast as you can. All right, yeah. So if user kind of like simply uploading the artifact, there is a kind of like a say that key right now there is a kind of like a something problem in the server, or maybe kind of like a something is this thing that key I will kind of like mention that key your application, your artifact is uploading in the queue. Okay, what's a queue? A queue means like that key your artifact is uploading in the queue means like whenever the internet is actually available or whenever the API is actually running, then your your artifact will gonna upload. Don't really worry about that. So basically it kind of like says your artifact uploading is on queue. Okay, so user will not gonna get panic. User will always gonna know that ki when the internet will gonna arrive or when the API will kind of like something fix, my artifact will kind of like uploaded. One thing. Another thing, how do I supposed to be make sure that key people will kind of like getting new artifact for listening, like people want to listen the artifact. Obviously new artifact will not gonna be listen, like will not gonna be load. So basically the previous artifact, okay, a previous artifact means like that it's not really that ki last time kind of like a user opened the application. Let's just say a kind of like a 1 hour ago he opened the application and at that time API is actually working. So basically it's this thing that key what is actually happened that key API like basically my application will kind of like a load at least like a 5 to 10 artifact in the cache memory. Okay, like it kind of like a download 5 to 10 artifact. Okay, and basically it's this thing that ki when something really happened that API is not actually working, that cache data means what ki the already downloaded data, but that data is a kind of like a only access through application. User cannot able to access this through like basically through go to the file media, no. Okay, so this cache will kind of like really help him to kind of like listen at least 5 to 10 artifact probably till the kind of like a API will fix. Okay, so this is a kind of like a stuff that I will gonna do to kind of like make sure that key if the API fail then I will do this thing, or maybe before this kind of like I will making sure that my cache memory is actually higher and kind of like uploading is on the queue. All right, this is I will gonna do. And also regarding about technical point of perspective, I am making sure that my API is actually working all the time. There is no kind of like a error and things and that. Okay, but still these are the technical point of perspective. I'm gonna make sure this will not gonna happen, because if such thing happened I'm not gonna kind of like somebody like getting a laggy experience to the user. I'm kind of like losing a lot of money too. Why? Because of that okay, I'm kind of like detached from millions of billions of user. If the API is actually crash for at least like a minute, then just try to imagine that key artifact entire algorithm or entire network is kind of like a crash for a minute, and for that minute I might gonna lose probably millions or billions of dollars. Yeah, just within a minute. So it is very much essential that my application is actually work very smoothly. If the Instagram is a kind of like a crash for a minute, the Mark Zuckerberg might gonna lose billions of dollars. Yeah, that is true. So it is very essential that key backend server backup should supposed to be exist and everything. And most of the kind of like a bigger kind of like a tech company, they are wanting to make sure this will not gonna happen, and they already have a kind of like a so many backup system regarding about every possible scenario that things might gonna go south and things and that. I also perform that all those backups and things to this will not gonna happen. All right, so this is it, and thank you.